Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back. After long and careful consideration, I've come to the conclusion that these people are crazy and nuts and dangerous. Let's listen.
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand it be mandatory.
There will be no nationwide mandate. I was referring to mandates by private institutions and portions of the federal government. There will be no federal mandate.
One that's not the role of the federal government.
I don't think you'll ever see a mandating of vaccine.
Oh, really? You know, want to hear something really scary? Not only is Fauci just a TV doctor like Marcus Welby, basically, he is the highest paid federal employee in the country. He makes more money than the President of the United States, who has the codes to the nuclear weapons. Think about that for a moment.
Particularly for the general public. But you would never mandate, at least I do not think you would. I'd be pretty surprised if you mandated it for any element of the general public.
We are seeing relatively normal life, like packed football stadiums this weekend. I just can't get over the pictures of those outdoor stadiums.
I can't get over the pictures of those outdoor stadiums. You didn't have a problem when BLM had tens of thousands of people all smashed together. Oh, and by the way, the CDC, if you remember last year, had over 500, I believe it was, employees that signed a letter saying that even if the Black Lives Matter protests were super spreaders of the virus, combating racism was killing more people than COVID. Think about that for a moment.
Dr. Schaffner, even if, these events are happening outdoors, are crowds like that safe?
Oh, Anna, we wouldn't ever talk about being safe. I don't use that four-letter word. But these crowds do provide a risk.
The science tells us that this is a virus that does not discriminate. It doesn't care why it is that people are gathering. But
you're going to see later that this doctor here is really and truly that crazy.
It does care about the conditions under which they're gathering. So outdoors, much safer than indoors.
We've seen some data that has shown that indoor events have led to outbreaks. I mean, whether it be a Trump rally or a wedding.
Oh, my God. A Trump rally. Oh, no. We need to get the team out there in their hazmat suits and break this up as soon as possible.
We're going to be talking about that later, a wedding in Maine. What has the data shown us on outdoor protests? Have there been super spreader events tied to protests?
Of course, there have been infections, and we should be clear that outdoor protests with a lot of people still have risk of transmission and ideally should not happen in the middle of a pandemic either. But there have not been surges of infections that have been tied. There was a study looking at over 300 cities where protests occurred, and they did not find surges of infections tied to these protests.
Oh, so the virus knows if it's a Black Lives Matter protest / riot, or it's a Trump rally, or a wedding, or a sporting event, or a funeral. Gotcha. I'm glad you made that clear. You are nuts.
Pictures here now. Big crowds in stadiums, not clear who was required to be vaccinated. Recommendations for masks, but as you can see in these pictures, folks just weren't doing it. If we keep doing this, are we going to be kind of stuck in outbreak mode?
We could be stuck in outbreak mode, and that's why I think what you're going to be seeing, in addition to the fact that where people are getting voluntarily.
Remember something. This guy makes more money than the President of the United States. He's the highest paid federal employee. Dr. Fauci, do us all a favor. Retire. You make over 400 grand a year. How much is enough? Go enjoy your life and give us a break. Remember, you're not going to live forever, you moron. Start calling him Dr. Marcus Welby, MD.
Vaccinated. I think you're going to see a lot more local mandates, Jim.
People should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no...
Oh, right now. See, that's what they do. That's what bureaucrats do right now. Now, tomorrow might change. Why is there confusion? I don't know.
reason to be walking around with a mask. You don't need to be walking around with a mask right now. Masks, quite frankly, are more important for people who are infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. In fact, you need some supplementation to just physical distancing. And that's the reason why some time ago, the recommendation was made, I believe it was Dr. Redfield at the CDC who first said that, about getting some sort of a covering. We don't want to call it a mask because back then we were concerned we would be taking masks away from the healthcare providers.
Oh, so what you did was you said masks weren't required. And by your logic, and what you're saying is it spread the coronavirus, killed thousands of people, these are your words, just so healthcare providers could have enough masks, because guess what? The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, several months before it hit the world, bought up all the masks and the PPE they could in the world, and it left countries short so they could have enough for their own. But then again, you are hand in glove with the Chinese. We funded in part the National Institute of Health, which you ran, the Wuhan lab. They got a nice grant from us, and you lied under oath and said they didn't.
But some sort of mask-like facial covering, I think for the time being, should be a very regular part of how we prevent the spread of infection.
One mask is better than zero masks. 2 masks is better than 1 mask. But you don't have to have double masks. Is that right? I mean,
it is.
And now we're hearing we should wear 2. Where do you stand on that? If I go to the grocery store, do I wear 2? Do I wear 3? Is it safer to wear 8?
Look how naughty he looks, and it's going to be interesting. Look at a gentleman on the right. I forget his name. Used to be on Fox, still is. When Fauci says something, watch the little part of the corner of his mouth smirk up.
Where does it stop?
Well, no, the discussion is changing, not the goalpost. So the CDC doesn't officially recommend wearing double masks.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is to get individuals who are not wearing masks to wear masks. Coming down really, really very low. I want it to keep going down to a baseline that's so low that there's virtually no threat, or not no, it'll never be zero, but a minimal threat that you will be exposed to someone who is infected.
I absolutely think.
Now, I want you to listen to this woman. I believe her name is Dr. Chen. That's the one that was on earlier in the episode. This woman is nuts. Remember, she's a medical doctor. She is not a constitutional lawyer or a constitutional expert or professor. None of those things. Listen to what she says. It's scary as hell.
I think we should have that requirement. I think it was a major oversight on the part of the Biden administration to not issue this yesterday. And we have to talk about the reason. The reason isn't so much that we need to keep our train travel and plane travel even safer. They are pretty safe, although I definitely think that having a vaccine requirement would make it even safer and probably encourage many people who are vaccinated or who have young kids and want to protect them. Maybe it'll help to encourage those people to start traveling again. But there's an even bigger reason too, which is I think we really need to make it clear that there are privileges associated with being an American, that if you wish to have these privileges, you need to get vaccinated.
If you want to keep these privileges, you need to be vaccinated. You are dangerous. It's not a privilege. It's a right. It's not called the Bill of Privileges. It's called the Bill of Rights. These people are nuts.
travel and having the right to travel interstate. It's not a constitutional right as far as I know.
It's not a constitutional right as far as I know. How many years did you go to law school? How many cases have you brought before the Supreme Court? You moron. This is the danger, folks. There's people like this that are influencing people on TV, in this case CNN, and are now running our government and think just the same.
To board a plane. And so saying that if you want to stay unvaccinated, that's your choice. But if you want to travel, you better go get that vaccine. That if you wish to have these privileges, you need to get vaccinated.
Think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. These people are dangerous, and they're crazy, and they're in charge. And that's to scare the bejesus out of all of you. We can't let this stand. We have to fight back. The future of our republic is at stake. And until next time, goodbye and good luck.